It should have horrified you how quickly you had calmed down after your outburst, but then again, nothing seemed to be able to perturb you anymore. You bent down and collected every scrap of wood and threw it in a bin, presenting it to the stormtrooper outside. "Take this somewhere and dispose of it," you ordered. "The chair broke. Kylo Ren will not hear of this, or I'll tell him that you were the one that broke it." He looked down at the chair, broken into multiple pieces in the bin, and then looked back at you. "Yes, ma'am, right away, ma'am." He took the bin and scurried off as quickly as his legs would carry him, probably making sure that he was back before Kylo Ren saw that he wasn't at his post. You just watched him go, lips pursed in apathetic amusement. With no one stopping you, you could have easily wandered off. But where would you go? Back to Sadie? There's always the possibility that Hux was there. And besides, Kylo would not be happy if he arrived back to see that you were missing and the door unguarded. So you went back inside and took a shower, carefully picking little splinters out of your palms and fingers. It wasn't really painful, just annoying, and you hoped that Kylo wouldn't notice the little cuts on your hands when he came back. You could always blame your injuries on sparring or working out. If Kylo couldn't get into your head, it didn't really matter what you told him, so long as you fixed your face to make it look like you believed your own lie. Kylo had an uncanny knack for reading you, wall in your head or not, and you had to be on your guard at all times to make sure not to draw his suspicion. Then again, you could at least afford to be a little upset, a little angry. After all, you had seen what had happened to Sadie. You had seen the purple bruise around her eye, the indent of a collar around her neck. It would raise his suspicions if you weren't angry, but you had to be careful how much you revealed to him. It made sense for you to be angry. That was fine. Vengeful? Sure. But if he knew that your ire was bordering on wrath, then he might have second thoughts about training you in the Force. This was a delicate situation, and you had to play it carefully. After your shower, you lay down on the bed. Destroying the chair had actually made you feel a little bit better, or at the very least, it had tuckered you out. Combined with the hot steam from the shower, it made you downright sleepy. You couldn't wait for Kylo any longer. You could only hope that he was so late because he had gone to rescue Sadie. Content with that explanation, you closed your eyes and let yourself drift off to sleep. You hadn't been sleeping long when the sound of Kylo getting into bed beside you startled you awake. "Hey," you murmured sleepily, rubbing sleep out of your eyes with one hand. "You're back late." "I had matters to attend to," Kylo says slowly, as if he's choosing his words carefully. "Sadie?" you ask hopefully. "No," he replies, and you mope into the pillow, crestfallen. "How is she?" "Bad," you reply simply, letting a fair amount of mope into your voice. "Hux is a monster." He just brushes your hair back with one hand and doesn't say anything. You have no idea what he's doing to her. He's torturing her. He could be torturing her right now. We need to get her out of there. "Soon," he responds, and he pauses a moment as he rolls over onto his back and settles into a more comfortable position. "I'm going away at the end of the week." You can't suppress the whine in your throat as you move closer to him, resting your hand on his chest. "Away? For how long?" He turns to you and smirks as if he had been waiting to see you pout at the news of his departure. "Just for a few days." "So will there be time," you ask him cautiously, "to rescue Sadie right before you go?" He bows his head in a quick nod, and you let yourself grin. "But it means you're going to be on your own here for a few days," he warns. "I'll be all right," you say softly, sensing an opportunity. "But maybe, just in case, you can teach me something? Like how to use the Force?" He raises an eyebrow. Just in case I ever need to use it." He says, and you hold your breath, waiting for his answer. "I'll consider it." Your face twitches, but you try your best to conceal it and only feign minor annoyance. He said he would consider it. That wasn't a no, and yet... "I sense a great deal of anger in you," Kylo says softly, locking his eyes with yours. You breathe out slowly, trying your best to sound calm. "Just upset," you say simply. "I mean, my mentors used me as bait. My friends are missing and in danger. My best friend was just killed by a man who left me to rot in a cell for a week and is now abusing a girl that's like a sister to me." You roll your shoulders. And I mean, I'm technically a prisoner here. I'm locked in here all day and night. So maybe I'm angry, but I think I have good reason to be. If you're too angry, I won't be able to teach you anything, he says. Not if you're too unfocused. I'm focused, you tell him. I'm plenty focused. I can do this. He turns on his side facing you. If you really want to learn, then show me how focused you are. Let me see your thoughts again. You bite your lip in hesitation. But Tara put up the wall, And he's not around anymore, Kylo says softly, his eyes alight with good humor, which means the only person that's keeping up your shield is you. You puzzle this over for a moment. He had a point. Before, Tara and the others had helped you keep the wall up, but now there weren't any Tortudoru left on base. If Kylo couldn't get into your mind, it was only because you were keeping him out. But if I knock the wall down, I won't be able to get it back up, you say softly. I mean, at least I don't think so. I'm not strong enough for that. Is there anything you have to hide from me? He asks. He looks like he's enjoying this conversation way more than he should. Did he really want to get into your mind that badly? Actually, there was something that happened very recently that you wanted to hide from him, but you weren't about to let him know that. Not a thing, you tell him. I'm an open book. You find his hand and guide his fingertips to your temple. Try me. You close your eyes and the familiar mental push comes, but it's not that strong. Nor does it really need to be. You try to picture the room that you were in before, but it doesn't even look like a room anymore. There aren't any walls. It's just dark all around you, as black as the darkness on Kylo's side of the wall. Were you as dark as him now? Was that what had happened? Had Kylo's darkness consumed your light? You feel a thundering in front of you, and you put your hand out to touch solid nothing. There was a wall there, of some kind, but you couldn't see it. Before, the wall had been clearly made out of brick stones, but this? It was smooth, but almost invisible to the eye, as if it was made out of claricrystalline or transparasteel. You hoped that it was made out of transparasteel. If it was made out of claricrystalline, all it would take was one sharp tap to break into 1,000 pieces. Suddenly, a flash of colors and sounds rush through your mind, and you know he's broken through the flimsy barrier in your head. Damn. Focused on trying to at least avoid the incident with the chair, you flip your mind back towards Sadie. It wasn't that hard to do, given how easy it was to hop back to emotionally charged events. You play back the memory as slowly as you can, from walking through Hux's luxurious quarters to Sadie lashing out at you from behind. As the memory unfolds, you dare to open your eyes. Kylo's eyes are closed too, but his face looks relaxed, almost like it does when he's sleeping. Struck by a sudden idea, you move your hand against his temple. He twitches, but continues looking through your thoughts. It didn't hurt as much as it usually did, or rather, maybe you were just starting to get used to the pain. Maybe it hurt less if you were willingly giving him access to your thoughts. You weren't quite sure. Either way, you press your fingertips into his temple and close your eyes. If the connection was already open, could it work both ways? If he could see your thoughts, could you see his? Confusion. Suddenly your mind seemed racked by confusion, but it felt detached, far away, and it took you a moment to realize that you were feeling his confusion, as if it was your own. You pushed with your mind a little further and realized that you were still seeing your memories of Sadie, but it almost felt like you were watching them through a screen. That was when you realized you were watching him watch your memories. The strangeness of it all almost made you pull away, but you dared to push yourself deeper, trying to open your mind, waiting for any emotion to... Jealousy? You felt something hot and burning and uncomfortable stir in your chest, the muscles in your upper arms twitching unpleasantly. You have to focus extra hard to see what exactly he's seeing in your own head, and eventually you can see yourself embracing Sadie. No one's going to be hitting you. You're going to be on a ship heading back home to your father soon, I promise. I'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. Looking from the outside in, you could see something else that you couldn't have seen before if you weren't looking at it through his eyes. It was an intimate gesture between two people that clearly loved each other, who clearly cared about each other. You would do anything for Sadie, anything. You would give your life for hers, and that was so obvious. It was a pure sisterly love, a familial love. Had Kylo Ren never really experienced that kind of unconditional love and affection? Or was he jealous because he thought you felt stronger emotions for Sadie than you did for him? Sure, you showed confidence in him. Kylo will help me get you out of here. Kylo will protect me. Kylo won't make me a liar. But at the same time, there was the most damning piece of all. It was such a small slip that you had almost forgotten you had even said it. He cares about me. He'll keep me safe, and I can use that to help get the others home. Fear coursed through you, and you were sure he felt it. You weren't using him, but you had sounded so confident when you said it to Sadie that you couldn't help but wonder how he interpreted your words. But you couldn't focus on that. There wasn't time. You tried to spin the conversation off of Sadie to something else, anything else. There's a deafening crash, and for a moment, even you're confused as to what's going on before you realize that this was the memory that you were so intent on him not seeing. You try to push it away and focus back on Sadie, but he's stronger than you, and his will overpowers your own. You can only watch helplessly as he looks on. You can't push to read his emotions right now. You're too unsure of yourself as you literally watch yourself come undone. It doesn't seem real watching it through his eyes. It doesn't seem like something you would have done, and yet you were the one doing it. Those were your hands, your arms, your grunts of frustration as you picked up one of the chair legs and bashed it into the wall again and again and again. It was your demanding voice saying your words, although it didn't sound like you at all. The voice that spoke was rough and dripping with rage. I need to learn the Force. I need to get as powerful as Kylo Ren, and then no one will hurt me or anyone I care about ever again. You almost flinch as you hear yourself say it. It sounded maniacal, unhinged, and to be fair, it sounded stupid. Granted, you had been in an emotionally charged state at the time, but even still, it had been you. You were supposed to be in control of your own actions, but this was you, clearly out of control. Could he sense your embarrassment right this second? It's heightened by your ear-piercing screech of helplessness that hurts your own ears, and you physically hurl yourself away from him, rolling off the end of the bed. It's enough to break the connection, and you're on your feet in a second, running into the living room. You want to run away, but there's nowhere to go, nowhere you can run to, and so you just jerk open the curtains and look at the dreary, snowy landscape outside. There's nothing else on this planet except for this base and mountains of snow. You press your forehead into the glass and close your eyes, wishing for a moment that you could be out there instead of in here. You stay that way for a few minutes before you hear Kylo come up behind you. A small part of you figured that he was just going to go to bed and leave you to your thoughts, but if he was out here to confront you, it meant that he cared. For whatever reason, you didn't want him to care. I'm not talking about this, you say, not looking at him. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't touch you, he just stands there. Was he giving you the silent treatment? What did he want? You can't see the expression on his face unless you turn around, but for some reason, you're afraid of what you might see. It's not like you really use that chair. It's not like you ever have company over anyway. Silence. You know, Hux almost did kill me. If you hadn't found me, he would have. It's not wrong for me to want to be stronger so I can protect myself. Silence. Or Sadie. You saw that collar around her neck. I'm sure you can only imagine what sort of sick shit he's doing to her. Silence. You know, you don't need to be jealous of her. I would do anything for her or my friends, but only because they need to be looked after. I mean, I still worry about you, but it's different. I know you can protect yourself. Silence. Then, you seem to have a great deal of confidence in me. I do, you reply, turning around to face him. I do, because I trust you. You've never let me down before, and you're not going to let Sadie down. How can you be so sure? He looks so sad, so unsure, and you know what you want to tell him, but you can't form the words. It's not your place to say it first. Instead, you stride forward and put your hands on either side of his face as you pull him close to you, kissing him deeply. He kisses you back, picking you up and pressing your back against the window. Kylo, you're suddenly desperate with need as you push your body back into his, hands fisting in his hair as you buck your hips against his, urging him on. Tell me how, he pants against your lips. Tell me how I can help you. You press yourself into him, kissing him with all the force you can muster while you try to think over what he just said. He wants to help. He knows you're upset and you're hurting and you're angry and he wants to do something, but he's not sure what to do. Of course he doesn't know how to help you, especially not when he can just barely manage to contain his own anger. This is a good start, you murmur against his lips, and you wrap your legs around his waist as he picks you up, carrying you into the bedroom. In truth, it was a good start. You needed this closeness, this intimacy, this assurance that he cared about you, because although you knew he did, it helped to be reminded of it. He said so many things with his kisses that he could never say with his words. It was a silent method of communication, and although you had been using your hands to communicate for years, he seemed to express more with his touches than you had ever been able to say. Of course, Kylo's affection and physical intimacy wasn't enough. You needed to get Sadie home. You needed to find your friends. But, at the same time, there were scars in you that were never going to heal. B had betrayed you, and although it didn't sting as much as it first did, it festered like a deep ache inside of you. Taro had died, and he had spent his last day on base trying to save you. That last wound was still fresh, and you didn't know how to describe the grief that you were experiencing. You had never watched one of your friends die before. You had known him for a short time, and yet you still felt like you had known him for years. Was it because he had gotten inside your head? You didn't know, and honestly, tangling yourself in a web of hypotheticals would probably not help the pain heal any faster. And then again, there was also Hux, but fortunately Kylo's assurances could help with that. Captain Phasma could help with that too, probably. You wanted to talk to her again. You didn't know quite what you wanted her to say to you, but she had always comforted you when you needed her before. Maybe it was just her presence that was soothing. Kylo had said that she was angry when she discovered what Hux had done to you. Maybe she could keep watch outside your door while Kylo was gone? Or at least keep you company? She seemed to be just as strong as Kylo, and sure, she may not have been trained in the Force, but she didn't have to be. By sheer size and physical strength alone, she seemed indomitable, and you needed someone like that on your side. Either way, you needed time to heal as well. And you hated that. It sounded like a ridiculous platitude that parents told their children in order to coax them into being patient. You doubted time would help you much. Maybe it would make the sting of B's betrayal fade, and maybe it would help you deal with Tara's death, but Hux wasn't going anywhere. But then again, right now, neither were you. Time wouldn't solve the problem. Time would only change things, but for the better, for the worse, that part was up to you. Okay, so that was part 1 of this chapter. Part 2 is a scene that contains probably triggering to some people. Basically, it's, sexual slavery, and Hux is very aggressive, I think is a good word, with Sadie. So I can see how that might not be everyone's cup of tea, so I don't want to read that if it makes everyone uncomfortable. The way it's written, and I have the link below so that you're free to read it whenever you want to, is that it starts like from reader's perspective and then switches to Sadie and then back to Kylo and back to Sadie. So it basically juxtaposes, how Hux treats Sadie and Kylo treats reader, so that it's a bit more clear that Kylo's really falling for reader. I will actually read the last part of the story because that's safe for work. Or just safe for listening in public, really. Feeling any better, you asked, basking in the warmth of his soothing embrace. He muttered in his low voice, too lazy and too tired to even form a coherent sentence. You giggled and snuggled further into him, but you were still able to catch his lips as they perked upwards in a shy, sleepy smile. And you? Your eyebrows shot up in surprise at the question, but you smirked good-naturedly as you thought it over in your head. Of course Kylo cared about how you were. He may not have asked you directly as often as you maybe would have liked, but you saw that he cared about you in a way that he would sneak side glances at you when he thought you weren't looking, studying your expressions, trying to figure out what you were thinking and feeling without even asking. I'm good, you murmured sleepily. The truth was that you were. Whatever rage that you had felt before was slowly drifting out of you. You were still worried about Sadie. That would always be in the back of your mind, but you knew Kylo would save her. It was only a matter of time. No matter what bad things he may have done in the past, you trusted him implicitly. He wasn't just using you for his own personal gain. You mattered to him, and as long as he treated you well, you didn't really care about what sorts of things he did off the Starkiller Base. Your hand found his and held it, intertwining your fingers together. He whispered your name in his sleep, and his cheek rested against your hair as you cuddled into his chest and let yourself drift off to sleep. For good or for ill, for better or for worse, you were starting to fall in love with him, and you didn't mind one bit. Alright, so that is the end of chapter 24. If you want to go back and read the Smoney piece, the link is in the description below, like it is for all the chapters, so you can read along. And otherwise, we will start chapter 25. Okay, again, thanks for reading. Please remember to subscribe, like, comment, and all that fun stuff. Okay, thank you.